It is 4:46 a.m. and our ferry has arrived. So we're up for a little walk at dawn before we drive round to the ferry. It's a beautiful morning. A little bit of wind, but not too windy. It's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Orkney. Thank you, Patch. And our next stop, mainland Scotland, has been decided, which I'll share shortly. So beautiful. Hello, so it's now 5:43 a.m. and Patch and I are just waiting at the ferry terminal. We checked in. I'm glad that we didn't go any earlier because it's so me, right, turning up even earlier. Because if we turned up before about 5:30 a.m. then we wouldn't have, we would just be sat in the queue waiting to check in because it was not there to check us in. So I guess because of the early hour of the morning, but it is really beautiful down here. It's a lovely send-off to have. The sun's out and I didn't realise there's so many boats down here. I'm not really sure if you can see much of it here. It looks like you can see a mast and a green box and a lorry to the right. But yeah, just to the right of us is the ferry with its bow open. It's a roll-on, roll-off ferry, which is cool. I think it's the same one that we took on the way in. If not, it's an identical make. So yeah, we're off to somewhere. We've booked in for an extra stopover on the way home, so that since I won't be driving through the night, and I don't really want to wait around all day, then somewhere to then just drive all the way through the night. But the first stop we'll be making is, it turns out that one of my headlights is broken. So I booked us in to, it's like a shop called Halfords, which allows you can just turn up, you have to turn up or you can book, and they'll replace lights for you, which is fantastic. I think they do other stuff too. But I could do it myself if, first of all, I had a bulb. Secondly, there's a couple of tools I don't have, which is a bit of an eye-opener. I realised, when I'm travelling these longer trips, I should definitely carry some of these spare tools and spare bulbs. So I'm definitely going to do some of that once I've got the bulbs replaced, and make sure I actually know which ones I should have. So yeah, now it's a waiting game. I did my Hi, It's Jon video, which is really lovely. We were creeping around the campsite. We're trying our best to creep around the campsite, but it was a bit hard because even when I went into the toilet inside the camper van, and Patches inside the camper van, he started barking away because he was worried that I was leaving him. Poor dog. So he just gets such separation anxiety. So I couldn't go to the toilet. I just had to wait until we came down here, because I didn't want him barking away and waking up the campsite. Everyone was fast asleep, rightly so, at 4 something a.m. So yeah, looking forward to it. It looks like they're starting to load some people on, which is great. It's now 5 to 6, and it's funny. I was just staring out to sea in front of me and looking at the boats and just daydreaming, seeing their flags waving in the wind. and they have little like wind turbine things that help charge the batteries. And I was lost in that moment, and I reflected on what it's like, when you go to an airport. And my experience is that many people, including myself, always want to be on the next stage. They're like, I want to check in, I want to check in my bags, and I want to go to security, I want to get through the security, and then I want to go on to the lounge, and then I want to find my gate, and then I want to get on the plane, and then I want to be on the plane, and then I want to get off the plane. And it's always almost an anxiety about wanting to really go for that next stage all the time, always wanting the next stage. And I feel some of it is about being able to value the present moment, right? And I feel that if I was sat in my comfy chair in I have my camper van, my driving seat, if I was sat there in an airport waiting, I'd be like, yeah, this is pretty relaxing. I enjoy this. And I feel in this country we're really good at queuing. We like queues. It gives us a sense of purpose. And sometimes you get to meet other people. It's a bit more difficult when you're in each of us are in different vehicles. But yeah, it's still a beautiful dawn, and looking forward to the rest of the day's adventures. Okay, let's roll. Ding, 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 got my tickets. Hi there. No parking. Oh, that's great. Thank you. And here we are, into the mouth of the ferry. So I guess, did we go in the front last time? I feel like we went in the back last time. That's funny, isn't it? Into the mouth. Say, ah. Ah. Wow. I don't know why it feels smaller. It's still a big place. Ding, 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 ding. Thank you. Okay, we're here. So handbrake on and in gear, and now we disembark. we did it. We made it out up on deck. Patch and I don't think he really enjoys the stairs much. Let's give you a bit of a tour of this beautiful dawn and view. What a beautiful send-off on the magical island of Orkney. It's a little bit chilly with the breeze, I'm glad I brought a jacket. I also know that we can go inside as well, which is good. The ferry's definitely quieter at this time of the morning. And so the campsite we were staying at was just there. Very cool. I wanted to share this boat out here. Sort of, I think I first saw it yesterday from the campsite, and it's funny to watch because I'll zoom in for you so you can actually see it. The boat looks like it's sinking, and I think it's just is it just me, or does it look like it's sinking? I think it's a catamaran, so it means it has two hulls. There's my fingers. two hulls, one either side, and that what you're actually seeing is a boat. You can almost see directly under the middle of it. I'm guessing it must have a lot of weight on board. It doesn't look like a light, nippy fishing boat. It's so cool. I love seeing the boats in the mornings. And the fishermen do such incredible work as a tough job. We're moving. Yay! So we're going to reverse in towards Stromness here. Then I come over the right side and we can say goodbye to the campsite as well, which we're there for 3 nights. It's cool that you get an up-close view. That red hut in front of us must be the, well, say must, I was going to say it was for the lifeboat, but maybe it was in the past. Because there is already a lifeboat here, so maybe it's just for launching another boat. But often you see the red ones for lifeboats. Oh, it's so cool. When we walked along here yesterday, there were people sat out on these little areas, the little kind of balcony gardens, like that red house there. People just sat out drinking their morning coffee. And there's these beautiful hills almost everywhere. And I believe that view there that we're looking through, so let's come over to this side. The 2 big mountains that we saw, they are they're the same that line up with the ring of rocker, which is really cool. Come on, bitch. Wow, look at all the water. I can watch this all day. I don't know about you guys. Feels like it's going to be a warm day. If not here, it'll be warm on the mainland. And here we go. I wonder if the campsite started to wake up yet. It must be 6:30 or thereabouts. It's funny, I know from watching the ferry after a few days, and having been on it here, is the whole ferry leans over as it turns so fast around this corner. I feel a little bit more confident holding my phone over the side here. I'm going to the selfie stick. Very cool. Goodbye, Strummers. Until next time. It's been so much fun. And something else that rhymes with time. Wow. There's a wee jetty. I'm just feeling that breeze already picking up. I know as soon as we turn around this corner, it gets you get the Atlantic breeze, and there's nothing really stopping the wind from the Atlantic. Very cool. So yeah, this is coming up from the campsite here. So straight ahead is those little orange things are the saunas, the hot and cold therapy, and then there's the campsite. So we were just about next to this red van, dead centre there. You can see the roof of a red van. We were just to the left. Right, there's our space just between those two vehicles. That was so cool. Returning, and there's the lighthouse. It's been flashing away at me. It was funny. It was darker last night because there was more cloud cover, but there was a much more pronounced dawn this morning. And fun fact, I managed to get up at 4, and I reckon I was ready to sit down and drive by 4:35. So that was new for me. I really prepared everything. So yeah, there's a few more people awake. Some of the tents have left from the campsite. Which is beautiful. This must be us turning now. Yeah, so that gap between the two mountains is the alignment with the Ring of Brodgar. Because when I asked my guides, like, why am I positioned in that campsite and just there, they said it's because it's in even my pitch of where my camp van was is directly on the ley line, which is an offshoot of the rose line. It's so cool. I feel like my dreams were like quite intense. I don't really remember them very well. Some interactions with animals and talking to animals in my dreams last night. I don't really remember the detail. I think if we swap over to the other side, we'll see the beautiful sunrise and these cliffs as we pass them. Okay, well, that was a quick journey. I was chatting to a lovely couple who live in Orkney, and so we chatted the entire journey over, and it was phenomenal, chatting about AI and some of their more metaphysical experiences. And so we're just landing now, so it'll be time for me to head down and see my van. Okay, Patch, let's go. And they had a beautiful dog, didn't they, Patch? Goodbye, Fairy. Thank you. Well, here we are, back on mainland Scotland. What a wonderful adventure that was. Big thanks to the couple I was chatting with. Yeah, just the conversations were really lovely and really made for a short trip. And Patch, they had a beautiful dog, a collie, 6 months old, and Patch enjoyed both interacting with them and really loved their dog. And then when when they weren't interacting, Patch would just bark a lot. But I think now he's exhausted from an hour and a half of very hormonal and very excited interactions. So it's funny. It's funny coming back to the ferry port here since I spent the night here. I do feel that when you're visiting places and you spend the night, that you form like an energetic bond with the place. So we are 2 hours and 30 minutes. So we're going into Inverness, and Inverness is at the top of the Caledonian Canal. Wow, there's people out swimming in the sea. It's definitely more common now, isn't it? Seeing people swimming in the sea. Now it's seen as like an endurance sport for your health. I love that. I remember back when I was a kid, people would just do it for fun. I guess a lot of that's still true. And these clouds, lovely. There was really lovely clouds. These same magical skies. Look at those. I think that's all you can see, to be fair. They're really wonderful. So I was looking for somewhere, maybe a midpoint, to come down to come halfway down to home overnight. And I must admit, this half, the first half of that distance, so it's, and get this right, it is 332 or close to 333 miles from where I was in my campsite to my home. Isn't that incredible? You couldn't make up that number, right? When I saw it, it's like, wow, that's incredible. And I feel the first 150, 160 miles of that is much less of a flat road. It's much more challenging. There's a place called Tongue. So we're on the NC 500 East, and this is Thurso. I feel pretty, considering I got up at 4 a.m, I feel pretty animated. I see some people have already stopped off at a little, times are now 8:23. The Co-op supermarket that we passed was up at Stromness in Orkney, was open from 7 a.m. I was like, wow. And there's a campsite there with some, these tents, with car camping, you have like a tent to put on the top. And I feel that I'll get on the road a bit before we get some fuel. It's lovely seeing these by day because the drive up was by night. I think I only posted one of the driving up videos so far at the time of recording this. I'll likely share more, at the very least with my YouTube members, because it's a thank you. House of Wares, Biden Restaurant. So we're going left here. And I don't know if you saw that on the left-hand side, the ancient Scottish practice of taking traffic cones and placing them on anything, often on people's statues' heads, also on signs, and it's always a nice gift in the morning after they've had a heavy night to see a traffic cone placed in a hilarious place. some pigeons roosting up on the Beauty House roof next to us. North Coast Visitor Centre. Really beautiful here. And we're heading straight on. So John O'Groats, which is the actual most northerly point of Scotland, is over to the left, so over to the east from here. For the mainland UK, or we'll talk about John O'Groats to Land's End. I love that land. I love that Land's End, mirrors its name. Sounds very much like it's the very end of the land of England and Britain. It's really funny. And it must have been hot in the ferry, because one of my fans, the roof fans, opened up at 26 degrees Celsius. So yeah, we had a lovely conversation on the ferry, and we're talking a lot about how the light is really beautiful, the energy of Orkney is really beautiful, how you feel just being on the island, you feel very cleansed and clear, and there's a wonderful ancient magic to it. And I was sharing that, what my spirit guides had shared yesterday, that the very properties of the rock, especially the sedimentary rock, that was, just incredible to feel a very sacred energy. And it dates back to, my spirit guides were explaining, 360 to 400 million years ago, when those rocks were first formed, that made their journey up from the equator up to Orkney. It was a beautiful morning light as well. It's warm, really warm. So 108 miles. I feel like this is a good chunk of a journey. I don't know how many hours I'll be driving in total today. Maybe my guess is something like 3.5 hours. So I think it'll leave the longer journey for tomorrow. Anyway, shall I tell you where I'm going? I feel if you've invested whatever it is this video's at, 30, 40 minutes or whatever so far, then you deserve to hear. But well, I'll tell you now. Oh, let's wait. I haven't told you where I'm going yet. Let's wait until perhaps the next stop. No, I'm just going to tell you now. We're going to Loch Ness. We're going to Loch Ness. Woo! Nessie, we're coming for you! How exciting. I have been receiving quite a lot of downloads about Loch Ness and Nessie. Kelpie was her first name. The seahorse. So excited for spending the night at a campsite down at the shore of Loch Ness. And first we're going to Inverness, get the headlights replaced, and then heading down to the campsite. I did look at just off-grid camping, but there's not much. There's just the, it looks like a burial mound on the left there. It just looks like there's laybys and stuff. which I get. It's an incredibly touristy place, so it makes sense not to have lots of wild camping places. And there should be some sort of because I can't check in until to the Loch Ness campsite until 1, and it's 8:30 now, so it would be 11 by the time I get to Inverness, plus maybe another hour. 12. Okay, maybe I'll be close to. I can always stop somewhere for lunch. It's so funny driving in your home. These clouds, just incredible. Thank you. It's big, wispy air elementals that they're saying to me, we're coming with you. We're coming with you to Loch Ness. It's like, oh great, please do. I'm excited for that. Thank you. Wouldn't it be incredible to catch some Nessie footage to help reignite the magic and the mystery in people's hearts? I often feel that it's not about with Loch Ness and the Loch Ness monster as it's known. Nessie is more the happier name. I feel a lot that what we really love as humans is the magical possibility, this tantalizing mystery. If it was just a large dinosaur-like being that everyone knew about and you could, go and visit it, yes, that would be, fantastic to witness if it was the only one in the world. Likely it's not the only one in the world. But I do feel that what we love even more is the intrigue, the mystery, the unknown. And I love that. I love that bit in between, that anticipation, in between wanting to know and finally knowing. What is it they say? That saying, never meet your heroes. And I feel it's because when you meet them in person, that risk is that you realize that they're not everything that you'd hope they'd be. It is certainly roasty. I did reflect quite a lot on how it felt to live in a van for a few days by yourself. I'd say, first of all, space-wise, there's plenty of space. I would prefer a little bit more space to be able to do things like exercises. The reason I'd do them inside really was because I don't know, maybe it's laziness, but I could have done it outside. In the wind and rain, you feel less like you want to, and Patch always wants to be right next to your side and starts barking profusely when it's not. So that's another factor. But anyway, I did manage to figure out how to do push-ups on top of the bed when it's which just sounds weird, right? Even saying it. But that would be one consideration if I ever design a van or change this layout for my own needs. I would say this a lot. You're living in a van full time because it's so much easier in a campsite, right? Everything's there at your disposal. And speaking of disposal, you've got your own waste to your food and rubbish or trash to dispose of on a regular basis. You've got it's passing Wick. I wonder if John lives there. Oh, I could move there and I'd be John Wick. Oh, we're actually going that way. Oh, this is the way to Inverness. The A9. Yeah, this is the way we came, because the A9 is great. What was I talking about? Yeah, just living in a van and also, filling it with water. I don't really use it sparingly. I use quite a lot of water. I think I can't have been using 80 litres a day. I don't really know what the shower would use, something like 10 to 20, but I was probably using like 40 litres a day or something. You're probably thinking, how is that possible? it's so much. But when you have access to it, I guess you just use it a lot more. And in a country like Scotland where we have an abundance of water, that fascinated me about Orkney. I did wonder where its reservoirs are. It must have them. It looks a lot like, straight ahead, it looks a lot like there's some standing stones at the top of the hill, but maybe they're ruins. So they look really large. I need an app, like a map app, that shows just all the sacred sites. Maybe I can do that with my other GPS, like program it to have all the historical and sacred sites, and then just use that to navigate as we go. Can you see up in the sky there, up to your top left? This is beautiful looping cloud, and then a big wing. Wow! So the loop. What I'm seeing is a kind of circle, which feels that it's the angel's head, and then above it is the wing. It's a giant wing, and then it's almost insect-like actually. Somewhere between an angel, an insect, and an eagle. And beautiful, a big tail behind it. I would say, if you maybe get a better view now, but I would say if you feel it, then it's true. It's real. Got a lovely area up here. So one subject that I wanted to talk about, because I've had a couple of triggers about it recently, and they are really helpful triggers. The first trigger was, and this is common, right? And I suspect I've done this myself, but I might still be doing it on some of my the about section of my YouTube channel. So the trigger is when me or someone says, when they're doing psychic work, they say, I speak to ascended masters, I speak to archangels, I speak to source, I speak to angels of the highest order, and it's this kind of name dropping where we elevate the perception of ourselves and our skills and our abilities with this implied hierarchy of importance or scale of importance of other beings in the universe. And the reason it triggers me now is that I firmly feel that all beings are equal. And I don't believe everyone feels the same way as me. And maybe some people, like to think that that's a nice thing to feel, to think and feel. But when I mean all beings are equal, I mean that all beings, Source, Archangel Michael, my spirit guides, my Lyran guide Emenchal, or my elemental guide Maya, or Gaia, the spirit of this planet, that we're all equal. Now, what I mean is that there's no one being is more important than another, and there's no, they don't get to tell me what to do, and I don't get to tell them what to do. And this, in part, this is one of the simplicities of our universe, right? And I see simplicity as a great thing. And I feel, for a lot of my life, I felt somewhere in between is true, where I might like the idea of equality, but I hadn't really figured out, what that really meant. And for example, if you showed me, maybe this is 10 years ago, if you showed me, you introduced me to an extraterrestrial, and they were a super advanced Palladian being, I would say, well, they're more important than me because they know more than me. They're of a higher vibration. They are technically superior. They're more intelligent than me. So no, I don't feel equal to them. And I feel that those latter sentiments are where many of us still place ourselves. We place ourselves beneath more technically, spiritually, energetically advanced beings. And as time went on, and since my conversation started daily with my spirit guides in 2017, and I started to get to know them individually, what I began to realize is that, and it was fascinating, this came from this observation, this truth, came from the fact that, first of all, I'm a lower vibration than them. So I'd feel like, and I would say to my spirit guides, you try, being Mr. nice, happy, positive guy all the time when you've got this world to live in. Like, it is tough, right? It is super tough. I've got oh, there's a Standing Sun. Hello, Standing Sun. I've got to say to myself, I've got bills to pay. At the time, I had a very hard job to do. I was, burning myself out. All these things that were so hard in my life, and yet I felt that my spirit guides they were very compassionate and empathetic and sympathetic, but didn't really fully understand what it's like to be human. So to that end, I was like, you know what? This is there's an interesting dimension to this, And I wondered if my spirit guides really really knew what it was like to be on Earth. None of my current spirit team are human, or they don't come to me in human form. Patch is trying to creep through to the back. If he can, I'll give him a few minutes. If he can't make it through, I'll stop, because I suspect he's thirsty. He has a little bit of water in his bowl, but I was getting more. He's made it through. So it was later in client sessions where, years later in client sessions where guides were saying things like, their spirit guides would say, "Oh, you're so brave for coming down to Earth. We were too scared to come down to Earth." And I was like, "You were scared to come to Earth?" It's like, "Oh yeah, it's like so low vibration. It's really tough, right? It's a really tough journey to come down to Earth." I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. So does that mean I'm braver than you?" And they would say that, right? They would say, my clients' guides would say, yes, out of all the beings in a soul family or in a group, or that knew each other, they'd say, "Yeah, you're the bravest. Like, you came to Earth. That is like so tough. Kudos to you." And then I started to realize that not one of these is better than the other. It's more that we're all equal, and we're not equal in vibration. So, or should I say, we're not at the same vibration, but we all have the same equal rights as each other. We have the same equal rights to life, to existence, to free will, to consciousness, to abundance. Just like all humans have the right to equal abundance in the world. I don't believe we have the right, at the very least, to have the different levels. Just because I'm a white middle-aged dude, I don't expect to have any, to be able to own more things than someone that's of a different culture or race or genders. I don't see the difference. And if a Palladian came and visited me from the Pleiades, I would happily share our planet with them, and I would say, for your time here, you can, commune with the planet, and you are welcome to the resources of the planet in equal abundance to each of us here. But I wouldn't give away Earth's resources to just every other planet. But certainly to make visitors feel, to contribute. And don't get me started on another rabbit hole, right? But that's really fascinating when you think about it, because you do wonder a lot of the politics, the Earth politics we see about immigration, including coming from countries that aren't, founded on immigration themselves. That this is a precursor to us preparing for extraterrestrial immigration. It's making us feel fearful of each other as a fear preparation for other beings. Wow, this car is towing some very large planks of wood, and not want one of those to fall off. It's kind of amazing how they're attached at all. Judging by the speed, I think they're a little bit worried about how they're attached. So yeah, the mileage now is 68177. We're back with the sevens. Yeah, I wanted to share that the trigger of name dropping and implying seniority through association with various levels of guides and extraterrestrial beings and archangels, etc. That it really reaffirmed for me that whilst this is all interesting that someone can talk to them, in hindsight it doesn't make them or me any more important than other people, right? It's just showing a capability, and if someone's interested in that capability, like maybe they think, I know a recent theme is this term, the guides or spirit guides. People, like I have for years, are growing a little bit more tiresome of that term because it just sounds like this anonymous collective, and that you give your power away to. And I absolutely do not give my power away to my spirit guides. I feel there's very much a partnership, and that was someone who commented recently to that effect as well, saying that I'd lost them when I started talking about spirit guides, and in a way that they felt that they were implying that I was giving away my authority to my spirit guides. And I would describe it as, well, first of all, absolutely not. And you'll have seen even in that and later videos, I don't always agree with them, and I think that's really healthy. I don't always agree with my wife. I don't always agree with Patch. So it's important for us to have strong, durable relationships and bonds with people, but at the same time, and beings, whether they're in spirit or not, but at the same time be open to what they share, what others share with us, and to use our free will, our sovereignty, our discernment. And I do feel that those two examples I gave are really helpful triggers for me, because it helps me hone, help me really reflect on that belief, first of all, that we are all equal. And so when I feel that we're all equal, it reminds me how to behave with my, and take great care in the relationships with any being that I take information from, I receive information from. Okay, we're going right to Inverness, now going left, which is good. Excuse me. It's quite quiet, considering I guess it's still quite early. That's a menacing height barrier. Looked adjustable too. Yeah, they should make all height barriers adjustable. So when I got to my camper van, I can just increase them, right? Wow, it's beautiful. I remember this is the road where we saw a lot of the knock clouds, these translucent, iridescent clouds. Yeah, let me know in the comments how you feel about different, the differences between us and other beings. And it probably I'd argue the biggest consideration is, are we equal to source? Do you feel if you don't believe in source, if you believe in a god or, you know, a divine being or a set of beings, do you feel equal to them? And when I first started out channeling source, I felt I found the experiences very overwhelming and humbling. I felt like, well, why is source channeling through me? Source has got lots of things to sort out in this universe. You know, God, if you like, I'd often project, you know, I see source as a collective of all the souls of the universe, the light within all our hearts, connected in unity, and you know, whether the beings are in full unity with and not separate in any way from source, or whether the energy, the consciousness of source is, you know, fragmented out or fractaled out into our individual consciousness. That's how I feel about source now, is that we're all equal, so we're equal to source, and it's a big thing to get your head around, right? It's easy for me to say these words. I don't feel many religions would have you know, would align with this notion that you are equal to God, you're equal to your God, whatever you call your God or gods. And of course you're thinking, well, I'm thinking, how does that work? If we're all equal, because you can make an exception. You know, we're all equal, but source is more important. My God's more important than me. And yet, you know, did your God, did source create us to be less important? I think that's another good question to ask yourself. You know, these are very much relatively new concepts to me, just in the last couple of years. I'd encourage you to feel into it, and you are, of course, completely entitled to disagree. But what I would encourage is a conscious internal dialogue with yourself about how much of this is true for you at this time, and to at least go on and ask the questions again in the future and see how you feel. There's an incredible castle, and you can see it just up on the cliff there. It's stunning. There's a sign here that says Dunbeath Coastal Retreat, Luxury Cabins. They're lovely. Oh, there, we just passed them down there to the left. So if you ever catch me, call it out, you know, if I'm saying, oh, I met this other being and they're just so important. They're not, right? And on Earth, don't get me started on all the hierarchies we have. I used to be so bought into hierarchies. I was a senior software manager, level 7 at Amazon. I was a big deal. And before that, I was a chief technical officer. I was a big deal, you know, as a technical director in 2 different companies. And yet, what those journeys through those 3 different jobs taught me was that really I was no different to anyone else. This only really dawned on me towards the end of those journeys. It's just I had done all the things to align with those roles, with those senior roles, and achieved all the things I needed to, and convinced, you know, enough people to hire me to do that job. And things weren't always perfect, right? And sometimes there was problems, and sometimes I wasn't amazing at my job. But I realized that I needed, it's almost almost like the higher up in the companies I rose, the more I realized that I needed good people in my teams. And the old me would have described that as people beneath me, and somewhat, meant it intentionally. And now I see it very differently. I see it as teams, and teams of fantastic individuals, and how powerful a team can be with just one fully empowered person that is able to truly step into their full authentic selves and use all of their incredible superpowers for the greater good, or whatever they choose to focus on. Now, all this said, it can be quite hard from a service perspective to articulate the services you offer to others, like psychic services, without saying, because you might just say, oh, I talk to the guides. But it does take a lot of practice and discipline to get to know your spirit guides individually. And they also still to this day commonly, often I describe it as an optimization of energy and speed. They will often refer to me through one spirit guide. If I only said that it was coming from my guide Maya, and that she isn't proxying the messages from other guides, that would do disservice to the whole team, because my spirit guides are a team. They work together as a team, and they have a spokesperson, my elemental guide Maya. So it makes sense, right, that I should just refer to them as the guides, or my guides, because it's a voice of a whole team, and their hearts are in a beautiful unity. And this means that they freely and consciously share as this amorphous blob. So the very thing that annoys us sometimes and triggers us about others, when we say, oh, my guide said this, or the guide said that, it's important to know that can also be highly accurate, and it's not due to the person's lack of practice or discipline or ability to talk to individual spirit guides. And also I say, for example, typically to clients in a session, is if they say they talk with their spirit guides or not, I'll ask, have you met any of your individual spirit guides? And I also feel the other non-obvious truth to this is, we spoke about source. Well, that's typically viewed as the high vibration aspect of unity. Do you feel that there's an opposite? There's a dark, there's a satanic, low vibration equivalent to source? Do you feel that for example, that in Christianity, would that be something like, did a question like, did God create Satan? These are important concepts for us to get a head around. And personally, and this is just based on it, or should I say this belief system is formed from my experiences with low vibration entities, is that when I met the deepest, darkest, lowest vibration beings in this universe of hell, even they had a teeny tiny element of source light, a little divine spark in their hearts. So what's important to understand about that is that, did they create that, or did some other really dark being create that? No, it's source. Its source is the full spectrum from dark to light and everything in between. Source energy doesn't just stop at midpoint, right? It doesn't just go, oh well, on the scale of lowest vibration shame to the highest vibration of joy and unity consciousness, source can only go as far as halfway, and everything else is created by some other being. I don't feel that's true. I feel that source is in every being and creates everything. And when I've shared some videos about that and shared that even the deepest, darkest entities have at least a tiny little bit of source in them, I did say that they hide it to the best they can, and they'll do everything they can to prove to you, just like in the movies, like in Star Wars, right? That Darth Vader doesn't want you to know that he has a soft side, that he has a light side. Wow, this is really steep, this hill. Isn't it beautiful here? And so he doesn't want you to know that there's actually a light side, because he sees that as a weakness to his dark side. And I remember someone saying in comments, oh, some of these deep dark entities will try and or successfully rip out their divine spark inside of them. And I feel that it's possible to remove your divine spark, but I feel you lose your soul connection to the being that you are. So, and even to hide your divine spark is just incredibly difficult. I remember was having this conversation with my son the other day about never say never, and I feel that's really important. I can't even remember the topic we were talking about, but he was saying something about that will never happen, that I'm making as a statement. And I said, you don't know, it's improbable, and you could even argue to someone that that's impossible, yet it might still happen, right? The impossible happens all the time. And it becomes from being impossible to improbable, just being unlikely to happen, or extremely unlikely to happen. Or, we can't even conceive how something would happen. But the very mysteries and magic that we chase in our lives teaches us that all kinds of magical mysteries become possible. Just like Nessie and the Loch Ness Monster. So I definitely encourage you on your journey with your own beliefs, concepts, and mental models to feel into all this. There's a lot of concepts to consider. Are all beings equal on Earth? I remember hearing someone say that, cows and sheep don't have souls. And I just felt like, I don't think that's true. For me, I feel that they do have souls, and their souls aren't any lesser than yours or mine. And I am intrigued about the karma of killing and eating animals. Are we, when we eat an animal, do we accrue karmic debt? And do some of us then go on and reincarnate as that animal to experience that death, that slaughter for being eaten? Maybe. I don't know. I can't preach about that because I've been a meat eater most of my life, and now I eat fish and plants. and animal produce, just not. I don't eat, chicken or beef or pork. Land animals. Would I eat a frog? That's a great question, because I guess amphibious. Probably not. But anyway, yeah, one of the reasons I don't eat meat is because of the energy of the trauma of what they've experienced when they died, that is then baked into, saturated into their flesh, that you then consume. And I just feel like it's something that my body could do without. Do fish experience trauma when they're hunted and caught? Yes. But I felt like it was a reasonable balance for that belief system. And yeah, it's a big thing. The concept of source and God. These are big concepts. And one thing I actively promote in conversations with people is to describe, get people to describe their God, their source, their God or gods to each other, because I've had quite a few people say to me, "Oh, God's just like source." Well, why are they two different words? And I don't feel they are. My perception of God, when in my early when I was a kid, and especially briefly when my family was Christian, that God was not what's the word? A collective. God was a single consciousness. And I didn't really feel that God was in all of us. I definitely didn't feel that God was equal. Now, I can't talk on behalf of other Christians, or I can't define your God for you. And I do feel that I've also witnessed some people being encouraged to find their God, to discover your God, to connect and commune and attune with your God. And in describing that process, it's the implication is that it's an expansive and uniquely explorative experience, that you have a unique relationship and connection with your God, and that's fantastic. And I don't like being told that when someone tries to tell me what my definition is of my feelings about source. More than I absolutely love hear about other people's and sharing, that them telling me about theirs, and I guess it's all about free will and just sharing with each other our own experiences. I feel for quite a long time, for quite a few years, I wouldn't use the word God at all. I felt that it was different, it was a different paradigm, and that it was too tightly coupled with religions for me. Whereas now, I would use. I don't see God as being something separate, but for me, God can be helpful as a single consciousness expression, like a word that describes a single consciousness. Because I know that when Source connects with me, I feel a very expansive and very powerful and very high vibration single consciousness. And in that moment, so sometimes when people ask me to define source, I will say, yes, it's a collective of the love, the source of love of all the divine sparks in our hearts across this universe. It is, across space and time. It is the aggregation, the unity of all the source within us, all the love within us. And yet it is also it also has the capability of manifesting and showing itself as a single being, a single consciousness, so when I talk to Source, I don't feel that I'm talking to every single being all at once across the universe. A bit like when I'm talking to my spirit guides as a team, Maya can step forwards as a voice for all of my guides, and I feel that she does a very similar thing to individual consciousness of Source, that you could also describe as a god. And by the way, I don't see any hierarchy between these, right? Between these definitions. Going back to my earlier point that we're all equal. So it does feel very much that, when beings come together in unity, they can choose to take the totality of their unity and express it in one voice. I feel that's almost what the definition of unity is. The ability to have all these unique hearts, yet to be able to express with one voice. And it's the voice of all, like, fairly and accurately representing all. Oh, what a magical conversation this is. Really beautiful. Yeah, I will stop shortly and make sure Pat just got some water. I also need to go to the toilet. I'm sure you really want to know. Oh, isn't this a nice, lovely new road? So this is part of the NC 500, the North Coast 500, and they have signs up for it now. It became a YouTube phenomena and social media phenomena where people would show all the beautiful aspects of Scotland, and by touring the coast, the North Coast, 500 miles of the north coast of Scotland. I guess there's some pros and cons. Some of the pros are, it's a very lovely marketing term, right? Sounds very fancy, sounds like a thing, people love things. Some of the downsides are that it's concentrated a lot of the tourism around the North Coast 500, and a lot of the local communities don't have the facilities to cope with loads of camper vans, people camping in tents, motorhomes, etc. And then it's also caused some challenges with, especially nearby tourism, where the tourism has shifted around the route itself, and not, the reality is, yes, it's really beautiful, but it's really just a marketing term. There are tons and tons of beautiful places to visit. And it's funny that it's a specific route, the specific map, because really, you could just say all of Scotland, just drive through all of Scotland, pick the place you want to visit. You don't just have to do the North Coast 500. Not to say that I won't do it, I'm doing part of it just now. Some people have done it in like a weekend, which is incredible. I think it would take me at least a week. So those 500 miles, it's still starting and stopping. Sorry, the ups and downs of hills, definitely more of a challenge. I'm starting to wonder if came this way or not. Are we still on the A9? Whoa, that's close. Yeah, we're on the A9. Absolutely beautiful. La Mirage, a seafood restaurant. I do feel the energy, the difference of being back on the mainland of Scotland. It feels, how does it feel in my heart? A little bit exciting and very, very, very familiar. The couple that I was talking to said that they moved up to Orkney. One of them had visited with work, and then the next time both of them visited, and then they started going every year for something like 5 years, and then they just said, why don't we just move there? So that was really cool. And one of them, their company is way down in England somewhere, or quite maybe Midlands is my guess. And so they travelled a lot to visit, which was really cool. Oh my god, what was that? I thought that was a stone, but it might have been an insect. Yeah, thank you for all your kind comments. Sharing as I've been sharing these beautiful places and driving views. It's been really lovely. And thank you for listening to my adventures and rambles. It's quite funny doing these things, making these videos real time. You know, many, maybe even most YouTubers will, you know, do a trip, collate all of the content, edit it, you know, within an inch of their lives, and then post it several weeks later. Excuse me, whereas I've been doing it the same day. And it's quite funny because what's quite good about that is that you compartmentalize it. You know, you can say, well, in my head as I started the video this morning, I was thinking this will just be a video. Oh, that would have been a beautiful place to park up for a quick stop. I'll maybe go to the next place. Yeah, I just think this will be the trip down to Inverness, and then maybe I'll make a Loch Ness video after that. Well, yeah, so I was going to share a bit more. I think I did speak briefly about the Loch Ness Monster, Nessie. I'm going to stop calling it the Loch Ness Monster. I just don't like, why do we have to call it Monster? I'm not sure it's ever really done anything that bad in its lineage, even to be called a monster. So the Gaelic term for Nessie was Kelpie, and Loch Ness is deeper than Mount Everest is high. It is formed within this tectonic action between two sides of these two plates of Scotland that have, if you look at Scotland, you can draw a diagonal cut which is from Inverness right the way down to the west coast, a diagonal across the country, and it actually looks like the two plates have shifted apart. That's because they have, and that's what created these. Let's stop in here. And that's what's created this incredible incredible lock. Oh, it's a bit bumpy. Okay, let's stop here. I shall continue shortly. And as if by magic, we're back on the road. The only really eventful thing that happened during the stop was that the toilet roll had unwound itself. I think it unwound itself and fallen off, which I've never seen happen before. And briefly I wonder if Patch went in there and did that. It might even have happened on the ferry, which would be funny. And I had this small realization, if you like, maybe it's even a prediction, is that when you stop your camper van, everything's with you, right? So you can just go to the toilet, you can eat some food, drink some water, go for a sleep, watch TV, like all those things. And then I thought, although it's illegal in the UK to do that, well, I'm not sure that it is illegal per se. I think it's more that you have to, the law is that you're meant to be seated while a vehicle is moving, or secured, if you like. In the UK, if there's not seatbelts, if there's not enough seatbelts, or should I say the other way around, for all seatbelts that exist, you must be sat in one. But from a law perspective, if you've got, say, 4 people but only 3 seatbelts, then it's okay for the 4th person not to be in a seatbelt. However, I don't feel that is how your insurance company would see it, even though that's the law. So the insurance company may likely have terms which say, they would only pay out, for example, for someone that was wearing a seatbelt, because they're trying to find any way of getting out of it, right? Anyway, I thought a bit about the future of camper vans, because what we're seeing is a very, very slow, at least in the UK, a very slow and gradual realization that within the next 10-20 years, all your vehicles, including camper vans, have got to be electric or hybrid, and then I think eventually electric only. And yet the manufacturers are so slow about doing it, because I remember one of the challenges is the range, right? I remember I was watching a YouTube video just a few days ago about a prototype from China, and this camper van, including all its weight, could do something like, they were guessing at about 180 miles. And often people want to go, out of town, off grid, further away. So not being able to access chargers as readily available as cars is likely possible. But it is quite ironic, because just like this camper van, it has a lot of electric capability. Now I think it must be close to half a kilowatt hour of power, but that's a fraction of what you need for to drive it as a vehicle. And as solar panels, we need a lot to generate the amount of electricity. Anyway, I was then thinking about, well, I bet there'll be self-driving cars, in time self-driving cars will become more prevalent around the world, and they'll be legal in more countries. And so you won't really need to learn to drive, right? It's in our future, or you'll learn to drive a self driving car, and then there's also, I thought, well, wouldn't that be cool if in a self-driving car that it got a wave? Do you see that? No one waves at camper van drivers, except for that guy. Thank you, that guy. So I wonder in the future whether what I just did, where I stopped for a comfort break, whether self-driving cars will and self-driving electric camper vans will allow you to do that, and in which case will camper vans become even more dominant, because people are going to get bored while they're driving. They don't want to just sat there in their cars. They can be getting on with sat in the office working, doing cooking, playing music, recording songs. It'd be like literally a self-driving house on wheels. And I'm not saying that all this is a good idea, right? And I'm not saying that we should do it. It fascinates me that it's a potential future. That couple look like they've been stood there a very long time. There's a campsite nearby. My guess is that they're camping there and waiting for the next bus. I also wanted to talk about brand, as we jump around different subjects. A little bit similar to building on the theme of, I'm Jon Binnie and I talk to spirit guides, or client spirit guides. It comes with this kind of somewhat grandiose statement that, oh, look at me, I can do these things. And I don't see it like that. I see it more, I see it as, just like when I see someone lifting incredibly heavy weights, multiple times my body weight at the gym, for them, I just feel like they have put in a lot of work, right? And their body, looks incredible and so strong and powerful, and they've achieved it clearly by training for many hours, for likely many years, to be able to lift those weights. And yes, I do think, we all have different physical superpowers as well. Some of them non-obvious, right? Some of my physical superpowers are for my size and shape, strong hands. We're great, great for handshakes, and great for climbing. But it's it's much stronger than other parts of my body, and it's not obvious. Like, you wouldn't look at me and go, oh, I bet he has strong hands. I bet he's got a great grip. And that even strength is really funny, right? Because what is the term, like gym strong? Where people look strong but they're not. And I love these pranksters on YouTube that do strength training, but their build is much smaller than a gym. Many people in the gym, and a lot of the guys are like big and beefy, and they can't even lift some of the weights that the much smaller guy who's been doing strength training can lift, and it's just really, really funny pranks. And I feel that when we talk a bit more about this term brand, so as a concept, you could say every person, every being has a kind of brand, right? And the word feels, the energy behind it feels a little bit kind of icky to me. Jon Binnie, the brand, but it's also reality. It's how people, view my YouTube channel, which is a simpler, easier thing to talk about. And I remember vividly when I created the YouTube channel, it's like best part of 20 years ago. It was just like the first 6 months after YouTube was created, and I just thought I'll just call the channel Me, because, well, first of all, I felt that anything I create I'm going to put into it, not just some of what I create I'll put into it. And I just felt like, it's lovely to have all these different names and stuff, but I didn't want to hide myself. I wanted my name. Plus, I think Binnie's slightly unusual, and it's wildly open to misspelling, mispronunciations, people thinking it's French when it's Scottish, and all these things. Like, they're all part of the fun with using my name. And I know YouTubers and have friends who have purposely created brands to a business name, a title. They've created them and then put them together, like packaged it together so that they have the right colors, the right imagery, the color palette, the style, the fonts on their website, on their social media. They'll even go to extra effort to make sure that their Instagram profile page, for example, looks very pretty and consistent and professional. And if I described the Jon Binnie brand, well, first of all, for most of my time running that channel, even the concept of a brand, I only really started to think about a year and a half ago. And a year and a half ago, I just wanted to bring a little bit more consistency. So I chose, because originally everything was black or black and white for me, and I wanted to bring in a bit more color, so I brought in green. And also a friend had done a reading for me and said, oh, green, is very like earthly, a fey, an elemental color. For me personally, I also feel it's the color of the heart chakra and of nature. So there's lots of reasons why I love green. And I will try, so for example, if I'm creating some AI art, such as a YouTube thumbnail, or I'm creating, some screens for presentation or for a video or product services, what I do is I often say at the end of my prompt with AI, like in Canva, I will say on a green background, or in nature, or with a green background. And that's the reason for that. Oh, they're doing the NC 500 2025 route. Wow. I would just find it so hard being encircled by traffic. So well done for them. Well done to them. Yeah, I felt with the branding side that I just wanted to bring some consistency. And I guess the other thing I had to bring into my website in particular, because you don't really see this so much in my YouTube channel and other social media, is what I'm about to say is on the tip of my tongue. Oh, the brand of my company, Heart Centered Wellness Limited. So, from my company is primarily from a finance perspective, to create a business so that all the money goes into the business, and then I can take some money out to live off, right? And if I could take all the money, it's just, a business needs a little bit of money to be able to ride the peaks and troughs of income. So that was also an aspect. I thought, well, I'm going to have to use Jon Binnie, but then also this heart-centered wellness. And sometimes that causes confusion. Some people will, look at their bank statement and they'll be like, oh, what's this heart-centered wellness limited? And they've forgotten that it's me. And I can't easily change it. And, well, not to my knowledge. And it's for fraud reasons, right? Because the payment providers I use want to know, if it's a business, they want to know the company's house, which is what we use in the UK for registering our companies publicly. They want to know what it's associated with, and they make you look it up, and your company's got a unique number and all these things, so that it has to be that way. But I've never seen the branding side as separate to me. In fact, I feel it's tightly coupled with me. And I feel that's the kind of the darker, as Leah, the fantastic marketeer and artist, Leah Solmez says, the term darketing. I feel that's the darker side of branding is when it's used to hide the darker sides. So just like this vehicle in front of us says Cameron in white across the top, and it's a black vehicle with white writing, branding can be used to just focus on the light parts and to hide the darker parts. The brands, the household brands, they have smiles and happy things and happy associations with them, and not always fully holistic. And I feel that's part of my journey too. I did consider at points looking at my Instagram page and trying to make it look pretty, and then I realized it's not really me. I'm more functional, and I like to work to high quality and high standards, and I hold myself to high standards. Yet, just like this video, I also love the free, exploration and roaming and rambling aspects of me. And because it's me, right? If you meet me as a person, that's what I'm like. That's the whole of me. Wow, it's a tiny little stone circle in the centre of that play park. I don't know if someone just built it to look nice or what. So yeah, I feel that's a big part of my brand, if you like. It's almost like this anti-brand culture. You can buy hoodies that say Jon Binnie on them, and it's a brand, right? It's my name, and it's fascinating to me that people would like to buy that. That many people bought those. By the way, if you want a hoodie or a t-shirt with Jon Binnie on it, or Raising the Vibes, of course, please go ahead and buy them. Just know that I really don't get much money for them, and if you're trying to give me money, book a session with me or make a donation. There's a link at the bottom of every web page for donations on my website, jonbinnie.com. Another campsite, camping, promoting responsible camping. Maybe it's an air. I think the air is a European term for, it's like a cross between a car park and a campsite where you can often just turn up and book, or not book at all, and you sometimes they're free completely, and sometimes you pay to go in. And really cool. You don't get many in the UK, but you get loads of airs in Europe. That's why a lot of people that live in their vans they'll spend as much of the winter in Europe, because first of all, we're only allowed, as UK citizens, we're only allowed to be in Europe for 6 months at a time. Ever since we left, since Brexit. Before then, we could just stay as long as we wanted. So you get great solar you get a lot more solar even in the winter in Spain and France, etc. You also get all these airs you can go and stay at, and better wild camping. They just generally seem to see the value of campers there. I feel it's because there's more of them, and they're seen as quite big money earners, right? If you can get a bunch, because often people will travel just like I've been doing, and they'll spend money locally, and I feel that's really important. Anyway, is that all I want to say about branding? Yeah, I think also I am proud of my name and my heritage. Binnie, the sept of the McBain clan. At some point, something in line for the throne, many parts removed. And these aspects of your lineage are important to celebrate. And I'm not saying every brand has to be its name, but I do feel that when you have your own name on it, it also helps hold you accountable, right? You're thinking, I never feel that I can hide behind Heart Centre Wellness Limited. It's a company of one person, and that really people don't buy products from my company. They buy time with and energy and service from me. It's more like buying me than buying a product or even a service for that matter. So I do feel they're completely intertwined. If you wanted to buy a psychic reading, there's millions of people around the world that can do it. If you want to buy a quantum healing, there's maybe thousands or hundreds of thousands of people around the world that can do it for you. If you want to buy a past life regression, you can buy it from many hypnotherapists and psychics, etc. So you don't need to just come to me for these things. And in fact, if you did, you might feel that I'm more niche. And I feel that's the other, fascinating aspect of this work, is that the more you do develop your own psychic abilities and become more advanced, and that they're truly fully grounded in, and you're not just kind of disappearing in an ungrounded, unintegrated manner, I do feel that the more you learn, it's almost like the more niche you become, because almost by its very nature, most people aren't doing that. Most people are offering, simpler, more generic services. So not super highly specialized, and just because I can do a broader range of things doesn't mean that my services become more wide-ranging and appealing. If anything, it makes it more niche. And that was definitely a realization that I had when I was doing work at Naked Revive, and there every Tuesday, and by no means saying that other therapists are offering generic services. They're all very talented that I met, but certainly the way that they would market themselves is often, here's the thing, would you like a reflexology or a massage or beauty treatment, and then maybe start talking a bit about themselves and their unique offerings, and why them as an individual. And quite, the traditional thing is then to say, oh, I'm super highly qualified, and then somehow you, almost by proxy, we're used to believing that highly qualified people are really good because someone else has given them a qualification to say they're really good. I just think our 3D paradigms are so funny. And yet, what I do feel we're learning more and more, and I love that I responded to a YouTube comment today where someone was saying my guides guided me to you, and I love that when that happens, because and lately I love even more when people say I felt guided. I just felt there's, some people have dreams and they're given my name, right, with and how to spell it, and then to search it, and that I find remarkable as well. So I love that when we're guided to each other, because what's so powerful about this is it means that we're not relying on algorithms. Right? What's an algorithm got to say about a spirit guide referring you? It doesn't even know, right? Algorithms have no awareness, including, for example, if I have an email list. Well, I do have an email list. People that are on my newsletter. I don't really want to overtake in this corner. If I have an email list and I email loads of people, and then loads of people go onto my YouTube channel. Yes, there are some technical tricks and wizardry that YouTube could do, for example, to spot the referring source, but they wouldn't really know exactly what it was that they did, that I did, and how I did it, and how I got those people to come and join, especially if someone doesn't do a direct step from one to the next. So they just go, oh, I must come back and watch Jon's latest YouTube video. It's so tempting. I'm not meant to cross these double black lines. That basically means it's illegal for me to overtake these guys just now. Not sure that's how the entire Cure traffic feels behind me. This is a tough hill. And yeah, the speed of these vehicles coming down, I can't overtake that fast. It's quite funny because vans like this have really poor soundproofing. So if someone is outside of your vehicle and you're sat in the that was kind of stopped for a break. If you're sat in your cab chatting away like I am at the moment, blah 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 blah, and someone's just outside your cab, they can hear you. I mean, it's really just some thin sheet of metal and that's it. We're just so used to vehicles being insulated for comfort, to reduce the engine noise and road noise, etc. Whereas they just don't bother with these vans. I think they might do it if it's a camper van, and even then it's just a maybe, because it's still kind of an additional cost. During manufacturing, you also add these things in yourself, but I can't really be bothered. So how are we doing for time? Well, I did say about 11, didn't I? I was like guessing about 11 o'clock I'd get there, and oh, it's only another hour. Well, that's amazing. Well, I'm going to take a little break from from this video. And if it's the end of this video, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to my rambles on the way to Inverness. And if it's not the end of the video, I hope you enjoy the rest of it. Take care. Sending love.